guys, let's go. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm the cat gardener. For those who are new here, my name is Diana and I have a mini urban garden in St. Louis, which is zone 7A. So last week we just had our first big freeze of the season and it was like temperatures down to 20 degrees, but there was also like a huge wind chill because there were Arctic winds coming from Canada. So it made it as low as like perceived temperature of 13 degrees at night. And what's even more unbelievable is that today we're gonna get 75 degrees. So only here in St. Louis will you be able to see like a temperature differential of 60 degrees in the span of 1 week. We're used to this here in the Midwest. And I always say that if you can garden in St. Louis, a place as fickle as here, you can probably garden anywhere in the world. So I'm gonna show you a little tour of the garden. We're gonna go around and look at the plants and see how well or not well they did after the freeze. And we're gonna take advantage of this nice temperature, this nice weather today, and do some chores around the garden. I have a lot more mulching to do today. I also have to do some composting. Come along with me to see the garden. So we're out here in my front garden, and first I want to show you my little autumn display here, my little pumpkins and my chrysanthemums. And honestly, I'm surprised to see how well the chrysanthemums did after the frost, considering that they're just growing in pots like these and they're not actually in the ground getting that benefit of the warmth of the ground. So they look pretty good. And as you guys know, I was concerned about the squirrels eating my pumpkins, which is why I didn't put them out until the night of Halloween. But now that Halloween has passed, I don't really care. Honestly, the squirrels probably deserve a little bit of a treat after this bitter frost we just had. And now I'm curious to see how all of my vegetables in these containers, which I predominantly have out front, how they fared during the frost. I had put row covers on every single one of them, so they should have been protected. And superficially, just looking at them, like they look great. Like they look incredibly green and luscious, almost like they hadn't even gone through a frost in the first place. Let's see if there's any signs of frost damage. I mean, these leaves look really, really green and luscious and beautiful. Like so far, I don't see anything damagey. Yeah, I mean, these look really good. And right now they're definitely enjoying this warmer weather. So I hope some of the smaller plants definitely take this opportunity to grow a little bit more before we get more winter, that is. Let's go over here on the side where I have more containers. These look really good too. Like I don't see any kind of damage. Like they really look like they're thriving out here. One thing I did before the frost to prepare the soil was I mulched as much as I could. And mulching helps to protect the soil and the microbiome inside of it and all of the bugs. And that way they don't die from like a cold winter spell, and they'll be around next year to keep the health of the soil going. I ran out of that mulch, unfortunately, so I was only able to like mulch part of the yard. And like these guys out front didn't get any mulching to their soil. So today, with all this nice weather we have, I kind of want to take this opportunity to put mulch down. And the kind of mulch I'm going to use today is different from what I'm used to. This is my first time using straw, so I got a bale of it. I got 2 bales of it. And the first task is to figure out how to get the straw out of this configuration. It protects everything in there. It also keeps the moisture in the soil. And this one is a little bit tricky because I have so many baby plants here, and
the straw is just so big, like it's very hard to get it in there carefully. Maybe I shouldn't have bought bales of hay straw. Maybe I should have just gone with like the ones that come in plastic bags instead. I don't know, it's my first year using straw. I don't have a lot of experience with it, but it's kind of difficult to get it all in there carefully.
So after just mulching everything, I realized that my plants look pretty dry. I need to water them, of course, but the reason they're dry is because I haven't watered a lot recently. There's been a drought as well. And last week I did want to water, but then the freeze was about to come, and I thought, well, this is a really bad time to water. I don't want the water to collect on the leaves, not dry, and then freeze overnight and damage the plants. But it turns out that watering before a freeze is exactly what we should be doing. It's beneficial to plants, even though it sounds counterintuitive. But the reason it works is because water has a property. It has a capacity to absorb heat and retain that heat. So if you have just dry soil, it's full of air pockets, and that doesn't do anything to retain heat. But if you fill those air pockets with water by watering the soil ahead of time, then that water will trap heat during the day and then release it during the night. So that allows the temperature of the soil to rise higher than that of the surrounding air, and that protects the roots. The other benefit to watering right before a freeze is that I think we underestimate how stressful, how taxing freeze-thaw cycles are to plants. So plant cells lose a lot of water during freezes, and it's a good idea to hydrate them beforehand. Obviously, you can do what I do, which is hydrate them after the fact, after the freeze, but it's still a really good idea to do it beforehand, just to prepare them, make sure that they're less stressed out. And also, you don't know how long the freeze will last, so you don't want that dehydration to keep going and going. And then last thing I want to say is you want to be careful the way you water. If you're not careful and you water the leaves willy-nilly, then those leaves are going to freeze, and that's going to cause damage, right? So right before a freeze, you want to start early morning and water it then. You want to water at the base of the plant, and then during the day, that gives time for the water to soak into the soil and do its thing.
Watering is done, and now it's time to go out back and see how everything in my raised beds and my in-ground fared during the freeze. Now we're here in the back where everything I have growing out here is in raised beds or in-ground. This one had a row cover on it, and the dill's looking really good. All those little bok choys and mustards look good. Now let me take you to my kale here. The kale, I didn't have enough row cover for it, so I ended up using like this burlap kind of sack just to cover it. Let's see how they look. Okay, so this one looks really good, and I've actually had this for like a year now. I put it into the ground last winter, so it survived last winter, and by now it must have an extensive root system to allow it to flourish in any kind of weather. And the leaves were definitely helped out by the burlap I put on it. The other kale, it doesn't look so good, and sorry for this terrible lighting, but the other kale doesn't look great. It looks like it was weighed down by the burlap a lot. So I don't know if it just looks bad because of the weight of the burlap or because it didn't do so well. We'll see, I guess. Meanwhile, this is what happens when you have something like basil that doesn't do well at all with the freeze. Raspberries are not looking so bad. I mean, look, I still have berries. Like this one. Yeah, they taste really good. So I guess raspberries seem pretty hardy when it comes to a freeze. Let's go to the snow peas here. Snow peas, I covered it with row cover and looking good, but I don't see any peas yet. So I guess they need more time. I don't know if they need more light, which I don't get a lot of back here anymore. So yeah, I'm not really sure like how much it'll produce this year. We'll see, but at least it survived the frost without any kind of damage. Okay, now let me show you an example of something that didn't do well, and it would be this. So I put the row cover on like so. I only had small clips, so I didn't have any large ones to anchor it to the wood of the bed. So I anchored it using these small little clips like so, and I thought that would be enough. But the day after the freeze, I came out here and this thing was like halfway open like this. And I thought maybe an animal had gotten to it. Turns out like the wind was just so strong, and these are hardly anchors. Like they were just sliding along the hoop, and because of the wind, it just like slid off like this. And so it was just like open for an entire night of freeze. So let's assess the damage. Back there looks okay, but look at this poor guy. Like this thing was just kind of halfway open like this, so everything out front was getting blasted by the Arctic air, and that's why things back there still seem okay. But this one got totally blasted. I'm seeing like some leaf damage like this. So yeah, a lot of these are not gonna make it, but next time I know I have to anchor the row covers way better, and I have to use larger clips that actually anchor it down onto the wood. I can't just like rely on the small little dinky little clips. This one I didn't cover at all. This is as far as my row cover goes. It doesn't actually cover that. That's Swiss chard, or I think it's beets actually. It's not Swiss chard, it's beets, and you can tell by the root. This thing has survived the incredibly hot summer this year, and it survived this freeze as well, uncovered, which is amazing. I also have like some Swiss chard that I also didn't cover that also survived amazingly well. Here's an example of Swiss chard that I didn't cover at all. It looks amazing considering how cold it was. So Swiss chard beets seem to be incredibly, incredibly hardy. Okay, here's my other bale of hay, and we're going to do the same thing as out front. Just put straw down everywhere. I've got garlic growing back there in that soil, and a little bit of garlic here. And garlic is really important to mulch for, whether using straw or other kind of mulch. Garlic is really cold tolerant, but it still needs a little bit of help just keeping the moisture inside of there, keeping the soil a little bit warm so that it can continue developing and growing during the winter. So let's get started. Now that everything is mulched, one last chore for today, which is I've got this empty space back there. I don't have a lot of empty space in my garden. Everything else is really filled with all these winter vegetables right now. But here, it's empty, so I want to take advantage of that. I'm going to put almost ready compost there. And the reason I don't need to use completely ready compost is because this is gonna sit out here for like, what, 4 months before I plant spring stuff. I don't need to wait for my tumblers to have ready-made compost. I can just put almost ready stuff down here, and it will finish the process in the arc of the next 4 months. And this way, come spring 2026 season, this soil will become incredibly nutritious for the new season. Another nice thing about not waiting for the compost to be completely done is that I have 2 tumblers. That's my system for composting. You guys know that I don't have the space for in-ground composting, so the 2 tumblers fill up incredibly quickly, and I always find myself at the point where they're filled up and I have nowhere else to compost, and it kind of sucks waiting for that, right? So I don't have to wait for the compost to be completely ready now. If I take it out at like 80–90%, that means I have freed up a tumbler so that I can restart like a whole new cycle of composting in that tumbler. So anyway, I'm going to first aerate the soil before I put down the compost. And they say when you aerate, you should use a fork like this, and you don't actually want to use a tiller. Tillers can apparently harm the creepy crawlers in there, like the worms, earthworms and stuff like that. But this is like a way more gentler way of putting oxygen, of adding oxygen into your soil. So let's get started. So with a broad fork like this one, you're just going to put it in gently and then like turn it at a 45-degree angle so that you're just kind of gently forming holes in the soil and turning things a little bit. This is definitely not as aggressive as tilling. Oh, and can you tell it's totally not cold out? It's incredibly warm to the point that I had to take off my socks because it was so warm. It's crazy weather, crazy Midwestern weather. The aeration is done, and now I'm gonna show you compost looks like when it's not 100% complete. Still got leaves in there. This looks like cardboard that hasn't completely broken down, like big thick globules of stuff that hasn't completely broken down. So we'll transfer all of this into buckets and haul it over to the empty space. And unfortunately, this is gonna be one of the most laborious parts and kind of disgusting parts, but compost, when you put it into these tumblers, like as it decomposes, it doesn't smell or anything like that. It's just kind of gross that I have to put my hands in there and like dig it out, bucket by bucket, but it's okay. That's part of gardening where you just feel very comfortable putting your hands into the dirt all the time because it's just nature. And we should interact with nature as much as possible. Yeah, I put sticks in my compost even because I use wood chips for brown material in it, and definitely some of these sticks are not gonna break down ever. I'm gonna toss those. This is one of the unfortunate things about the world we live in. I think this is supposed to be parchment paper, which I thought I bought biodegradable stuff, and this kind of looks like plastic, to be honest. I don't know, maybe it just takes more time to biodegrade, but it's not a good sign, honestly. Toss that aside for now. So I got all of my compost out into buckets, and now I'm just gonna throw it over the soil here. That was about 5 buckets worth of compost. Now we're just gonna flatten everything, make it all nice and even. Last thing to do, put straw all over this so that we retain moisture and so that the compost can have all that moisture to finish composting over the next few months. So by doing that, it basically means that I emptied this tumbler way sooner than I expected, and that means I can restart a cycle now. So that means I will be filling this tumbler up with brown material, which is leaves. Eventually, over the next few months, I will be filling it with kitchen scraps. Now, one thing is that this thing is going to be sitting in complete darkness for the entire winter, and I worry that it's gonna freeze and stuff like that. It does. Like when we get a really long freeze, this thing becomes so hardened by being frozen that I can't even tumble it. I can't even turn it anymore. And I know that the compost process is always expedited when there's a bit higher temperature. So I was thinking of experimenting to see if I could move this to a sunnier location where the temperature will be higher than if it were to stay here, and if that would quicken the compost process. So let's get that started now. I'm gonna move this out into the parking lot where it's gonna be sunnier. Now that it's empty, it's way easier to pick up, and I basically can tumble it across the garden. Before we deal with the rest of the tumbler, I wanna show you the base on which the tumbler rests on. And it's this thing that collects rainwater and whatever moisture coming out of the tumbler, and it becomes compost tea, which is really, really nutritious. It's full of microorganisms that is potentially very beneficial for your soil. I used to use it for fertilizing the garden until one day I read that it's very difficult to use because it's hard to know and it's hard to control exactly what the ingredients, what the chemical makeup is. And you could potentially burn your vegetables or whatever, your grass, by using it as a fertilizer. So I stopped doing that, and now that I have my tumbler off and I need to carry this over there, it's way too heavy with all this liquid inside, so I want to first dispose of the liquid. But I cannot just open up the spigot and like allow it to pour it into the grass. That would kill everything. That would be like salting the earth. So I'm going to show you what I do instead. So you just open up the spigot here and then you pour it into this bucket. Now that my load is much lightened, I'm gonna carry this outside to the parking lot. I think the best location will be here because it'll get hit by the sun. Okay. Now I'm going to fill it up with leaves. So these leaves I actually got from my neighbor because I'm lazy, and one day I saw him like raking all the leaves, and I basically asked him like, after you're done raking, can you just give me your garbage can? I will dispose of all of the leaves. I will compost them for you. But this way I didn't have to rake anything myself, and it's free leaves for me. So I tend to do that. You know, I just ask my nice neighbors for their help, and they're very happy to contribute to my compost. My neighbors all know that I use leaves at this point, so they know that if they ever have like a bucket full of leaves, garbage can full of leaves, they can just like, you know, put it in my parking area and I will dispose of it for them.
And that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, please hit the like button down below. Please subscribe to my channel for updates, and I'll see you next week. Bye.